Hello and welcome to Tech Deals Game Performance Review Battlefield 1. We're playing Battlefield 1 today on the $350 custom build machine with the Intel Pentium G4400 that I built in the summer of 2016. This computer has 8 GB of system RAM and NVIDIA's GeForce GTX 750 Ti dedicated gaming graphics card. A full list of videos on this computer, including a full build on it, are linked in the video description below. We're playing today at 1080p Full HD resolution, low detail preset, VSync off, and anti-aliasing is turned off. Fraps was used for the minimum, maximum, and average game performance that you will see at the end of this video. It was not used to capture the video that you're watching. Instead, the HD60 Pro hardware capture card was used in another computer. There is no effect on the performance because this game was recorded in another machine. The numbers in green at the top left corner of the screen are from Msi Afterburner, a free program that you can download from MSI.com so you can get real-time information on what your computer is doing when playing games such as Battlefield 1. The first line that you see up there, the GPU line, that is our GeForce GTX 750 Ti. As you can see, it's currently running, as I say this, about 50% usage. Normally, in most games, the GPU, your graphics card, is the primary limitation. This is going to be one of those exceptions. The temperature is very cool. It's at 34 degrees C. It's hardly even being used. That says 0 RPM fan speed. That is a bug with the way Fraps interacts with MSI Afterburner. At least at the time I did this, it has since been fixed, but the fan is actually turning on the card. The clock speed, as you can see, is 941 megahertz. Now, line 2, memory, is the VRAM, the video RAM on the graphics card, not your main system RAM. The second item there shows that we're using almost all of our 2 gigabytes of VRAM, but not all of it. We are not VRAM limited in this game. In fact, we're not graphics limited at all. If you come to the third line, you'll see what the limitation is. The Pentium G4400 is a 2-core, 2-thread processor. It is a basic entry-level $65 processor that really isn't up for running Battlefield 1, and it being at 100% is what is preventing this game from running any faster. Temperature-wise, even at full power, it's not very hot, just over 40 degrees Celsius. Please note, if you watch the build video, you'll notice we have no fancy cooling. This is the Intel stock cooler on this chip, so it simply doesn't get hot. It doesn't have enough compute horsepower in order to do so. Line 4 is our main system RAM. Now this computer has 8 gigabytes of RAM installed and we are using about 6 of it. More RAM is always nice, but in this case 8's really enough, especially for the performance we're getting. This wouldn't run any better or faster if you had 12 or 16. And then the last line is our real-time frame rate. We are running in DirectX 11 mode, and as you can see, we're going about 30 to 35 frames per second. This game has moments where it's better and moments where it's worse. But the long and short of it is, on a $350 basic 2-core machine, it simply does not have the performance necessary to play Battlefield 1 very well. Even what I'm doing right here, which is actually pretty easy on the game because I'm in the sky rather than on the ground, was still not that great. Watch in a minute when we get on the ground and see what the performance was, because it definitely was slower than this. In fact, there were many moments in ground combat where the frame rate dipped down into the teens. So sure, if you spend all your time in the Zeppelin in the sky, it's not too bad, but this game honestly needs a better CPU than this. The next question that may be asked is what to change. Well, the first thing I would say is instead of a Pentium G4400, I would suggest an Intel i3-6100. Now, even that is below the minimum recommendations of the game, but at least it has a higher clock speed and it has 4 threads. It's still a 2-core chip, but it has 4 threads. Now, as you notice, we're on the ground here. The frame rate, especially as we got close to the ground, really dropped. Here, we're down at 17, 19 frames a second. The i3-6100 is about twice the price of this, about $120, a little less than twice the price. But for that money, you get a 3.7 gigahertz clock speed as opposed to the 3.3 gigahertz of the G4400. And you get hyperthreading, so you get 4 threads with 2 cores as opposed to the 2 threads and 2 cores of the Pentium G4400. Now, ideally, you would have an i5 6500, which is about $200 or almost twice the price of the i3, is 4 threads, but it's 4 true processing cores. Now, its clock speed is slightly slower. It has a turbo-boosted clock speed of 3.6 gigahertz versus the 3.7 of the i3, but since it is a true quad-core chip, whereas the i3 is a dual-core, no, and I got killed again. It makes a world of difference to games like Battlefield 1, which not only will use 4 cores, it'll use more. This is one of the early first games that I'm really seeing will make use of more than 4 threads. Most games, actually, honestly, will just use 2. And there are some games that will use 4. Very few. A handful of games will use more than 4, and Battlefield 1 is one of them. So if you have a 2-core chip and you're thinking of playing Battlefield 1, well, the long and short of it is, yes, you can. Is this playable? Yes. Did I run around and do a mission? Yes. It's a pretty poor experience, all things considered. You wouldn't be very competitive in multiplayer. Single player would be a little bit better. Now, one of the questions that people are bound to ask is, why don't you lower the resolution? Why are you playing at 1080p? Why not play at 720p? Why not change? Okay, that's not the limitation. Look at our GPU. Our GPU is at 35, 38, 31% usage. The performance necessary to draw the graphics on the screen is not the limitation to performance. In fact, the only reason that I have to put the detail on low is the fact that our video card has 2 gigabytes of VRAM. If we had a 4 gigabyte graphics card installed, which would be a bit ridiculous with Pentium G4400, but if we did, you could put the detail to high and you'd be getting the same frame rate basically. Because the limitation of performance is not graphics. Changing this to 720p would not change the performance of this game one bit. Instead, we need more CPU. We're limited by the CPU. So, at the $65 price point, if you want to play Battlefield 1 and you say, yeah, but I don't have a lot of money. I want to build a computer that plays this game and I just don't have a lot of money. Fair enough. The AMD Athlon X4 860K, which is the same price as the Pentium G4400, would be a better choice. Now, the Athlon X4 860K is weaker on an individual core basis than the Pentium. The Pentium has better single-threaded performance. But the AMD chip, look how bad that just got there with all the smoke. We dipped down into almost single digits right there. It's struggling. It has 4 true processing cores, and so it would actually play this better given the limited hardware that it's on. The 750 Ti is actually all the graphics card you need to play this game. I mean, more is always better. You can turn the detail up, it'd be nice, but it's enough. So if you're extremely limited on budget, an FM2 motherboard, which can be had in the $35 to $40 price range, and the 860K AMD processor at the $65 price point would be the better choices for Battlefield 1. Now, there are games that will play better on the G4400 than the AMD chip, because if the game only uses 2 cores, then the Pentium is better than I'm not trying to make a comparison here, but it's when you are looking at budget systems, you're making compromises. You're trying to figure out what choices should I make with the money that I have. If all I can afford is a $65 processor, if all I can afford is maybe $100 for the motherboard and the processor, which is going to basically give you 2 choices, the 860K or the Pentium G4400. If those are your choices and you want to play Battlefield, get the AMD chip. Now, if you at all can spend some more money, then I would recommend at least an i3 6100, which I have not done a video on, but will play this game much better than what you're watching right here. And for those of you wondering, are we going to get to the results? Yes, we will. In fact, we're less than a minute away from the results. This battle's almost over anyway. You can see from the top, there we are, 994, 995. Boy, this was just a terrible battle. The lag and delays, multiplayer Battlefield 1 just doesn't cut it on this hardware. It needs more cores than this. All right, why don't we go take a look at the results? Now, I did record several Fraps runs. I averaged them up. The average you're going to see is the average of all 3 runs that I did. The minimum is the minimum of the 3 runs, and then the maximum is the max of the 3 runs. So I used 3 different ones, added them up, and averaged them together. And here we go. At 1080p low detail, we have an average of 27 frames per second, a minimum of 8, and a max of 51. Now, the max of 51 isn't useful because that was just during scenes where nothing was happening. We weren't looking at anything. But in smoke, clouds, and combat, yes, it really does drop down to the teens. So this is very poor performance. Like this video if you like it. Don't if you don't. Remember to subscribe to my channel using the big red button right down below. Questions and comments in the comment section below. And as always, check out the video description. Links to buy Battlefield 1, links to my full list of play videos on this $350 custom build machine, and links to Amazon and Newegg for all the parts I used in this machine, all linked in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.